Every child in the 5 kingdoms knew the same story. Dragons brought the first fire. Dragons shaped the mountains. Dragons taught mankind to fly. And then, humanity betrayed them. For 1,000 years, we hunted them until the skies fell silent. We celebrated our victory. We built statues. We carved our names into history and called ourselves heroes. We were wrong. The truth began on the morning the Ash King came home. Not with thunder, not with flame, but with silence. Across the northern fields of Valdren, birds stopped singing. Horses refused to move. Wind curled low through the grass as if afraid to rise. Then the mountain moved. At first, the villagers thought it was an earthquake. Stone walls cracked. Bells rang without hands to pull them. Children were gathered indoors. Soldiers climbed watchtowers with trembling fingers wrapped around spears. But it was not the mountain. It was something behind it. A shadow rose above the peaks. Wings spread wide enough to darken the valley. And for the first time in 80 years, a dragon crossed into human land. The Ash King had returned. He was larger than the oldest songs claimed. His scales were blackened silver, like armour pulled from a dead star. His horns curved backward like broken crowns. Each breath rolled from his mouth in clouds of glowing ash. The soldiers did not cheer. They did not charge. They stared. Because every person standing beneath that impossible shadow understood the same terrible truth. This was no beast. This was a kingdom with wings, and it was dying. Far to the south, in the city of Ironmere, Mila Vance was sharpening her sword when the messenger arrived. He burst into the armory, pale, sweating, and out of breath. "Mila Vance," he gasped. "By order of King Alaric, you are summoned." "People usually knock before interrupting someone holding a blade," Mila said dryly, not looking up. "I apologize." "You should," Mila replied flatly. "I was having a peaceful morning." Behind her, Amira Vance leaned over a workbench, cluttered with gears, crystal lenses, crossbow parts, and one smoking kettle that appeared to be vibrating. Amira said with amusement. She was not having a peaceful morning. She was brooding. "I was thinking." "You were brooding with a sword." "That is a form of thinking," Mila deadpanned. The kettle gave a sharp whistle, launched 3 feet into the air, and sprayed tea across the wall. Amira watched it fall with a wince, cheerful and unbothered. "Good news, the self-heating travel kettle works." Mila glanced at the brown stain running down the stone wall. "What's the bad news?" "It hates walls." The messenger stared between them, unsure whether to continue. Mila finally set her blade down, serious now. "What does the king want?" The messenger took a breath. "The Ash King has been sighted in Valdren." The room changed. The humour vanished from Amira's face. No dragon had crossed into the kingdoms in decades. Not openly. Not like this. "How many villages burned?" The messenger hesitated. "That is the strange thing." "Speak." "None." Amira frowned. "A dragon that size crossed the border and didn't attack?" "No, my lady." "Then why summon hunters?" The messenger looked at Mila, his voice quiet. "Because it asked for you." Mila Vance was known across the 5 kingdoms as the Iron Huntress. At 27, she had survived 32 confirmed dragon hunts, ended 7 royal sieges, and once walked out of a burning fortress, carrying 3 wounded soldiers and half a broken spear. Bards sang about her, soldiers saluted her, kings paid her in gold and secrets. Mila hated the songs, she hated the titles, but she never corrected the stories because every legend had a use. Fear opened doors, reputation lowered prices, and when a dragon saw her blade across a battlefield, sometimes fear made the beast hesitate. That hesitation had saved lives. At least that was what she told herself. Amira told herself something different. She was 24, brilliant, reckless, and far too curious for a world built on fear. She had studied dragon bones when others burned them. She had examined scorched ruins and found patterns no one wanted to see. Dragons did not attack without reason. Dragons did not hunt for sport. Dragons remembered. And lately, Amira had begun to wonder if humans remembered anything correctly at all. By sunset, the sisters rode north beneath a sky-bruised purple with storm clouds. Mila rode ahead on a black warhorse named Vesper. Amira followed on a smaller chestnut mare packed with equipment, tools, bolts, lenses, charts, and 3 inventions Mila had specifically told her not to bring. One of them chirped from inside a saddlebag. Mila turned, suspicious. "Is that thing alive?" Amira patted the bag. Define alive. Does it breathe? Occasionally. Amira. It is a reconnaissance beetle. It has feathers. It is undercover. Mila stared at her. Amira smiled. It is still in development. For a moment, despite everything, Mila almost laughed. Almost. Then the wind shifted. A smell rolled over the hills. Ash, old fire, and blood. Mila raised a fist. The column behind them stopped. 24 royal guards, 6 hunters, 1 priest of the old flame, all armed for war. Amira whispered low. "You smell it? We're close." Ahead, the road dipped into the valley of Valdrin. No flames rose from the village, no screams, no scattered bodies, just hundreds of people standing silently in the fields, staring toward the cliffs. Mila dismounted. The villagers parted as she approached, and there, beyond the last line of wheat, lay the Ash King. He had curled his enormous body beside the cliffs like a dying storm. Each scale was the size of a shield. His wings, folded against his sides, looked like collapsed towers. Cracks of faint ember light pulsed beneath his chest, weak and fading. Around him the earth had not burned. The wheat had not blackened. No homes had fallen. The greatest dragon alive had crossed half the world, not to destroy, but to die. Mila drew her sword. The star-steel blade whispered free, catching the evening light along its edge. Amira grabbed her wrist urgently. "Mila." Mila did not look at her. "Stay behind me." "He's hurt. He's a dragon. He hasn't attacked anyone." Yet, the Ash King opened one eye. The valley trembled, not from rage, from pain. Then the dragon spoke. His voice rolled through the field like stone grinding beneath the earth. "Mila Vance." Every guard stepped back. Mila did not, keeping her voice steady. "You know my name. I know the names of all who carry dragon death on their hands." Amira's breath caught. Mila tightened her grip. "Then you know why I came." The Ash King's great eye shifted toward the sword. Yes. A low rumble moved through his throat. It took Mila a moment to realize the dragon was laughing, not cruelly, sadly. His voice sounded tired, almost fond, still holding the knife they gave you. Mila's jaw went hard. If you came to threaten these people... I came to beg, the Ash King interrupted quietly. The words struck harder than fire. Mila said nothing. Amira stepped forward despite the guards whispering behind her. Beg for what? The Ash King lowered his head until his eye was level with them. The heat of his breath washed over their faces as he pleaded in a low voice. Find my children. The entire valley went still. Mila narrowed her eyes. Your children. The last clans, the dragon said. Ember, tide, stone, verdant, tempest, eclipse. Amira whispered, They're real? Mila glanced at her. You know those names. I thought they were myths. The dragon's breathing grew ragged and strained. They are hiding, scattered, afraid, and now something hunts them. Mila spoke coldly. Humans hunt dragons. The Ash King closed his eye, grave. Not like this. A shadow passed beneath his scales. For one terrible second, the ember light inside his chest turned black. The wheat around him withered. The air lost its warmth. Amira stepped back, alarmed. What was that? The Ash King opened his eye again. And now, for the first time, Mila saw fear in it. His voice was a dread-filled whisper. The Hollow King. The priest of the old flame dropped to his knees, trembling. No, that name is forbidden. The Ash King's gaze remained fixed on Mila. Long before mankind built crowns, dragons imprisoned him beneath the world. Every clan gave part of its fire to seal the dark. His voice weakened further, fading. But your kingdoms hunted us, one by one, century by century. Every dragon slain, every egg broken, every clan scattered, weakened the prison. Mila's face changed, just slightly, enough for Amira to notice. Amira asked quietly, You're saying we caused this? The Ash King looked at her with something like pity, his voice gentle. No, little Star Maker, you inherited the lie. Mila's sword lowered an inch. Behind them, one of the royal hunters shouted, Do not listen to it. Dragons twist words before they strike. The Ash King did not look away from Mila, solemn. You are the greatest hunter of my kind. Now become our shield. Mila said nothing. For years, her entire life had been a straight road. Find the dragon. Kill the dragon. Save the people. But now the road cracked beneath her feet. The Ash King exhaled one final breath. From his mouth fell a small object wrapped in smoke. It landed in the grass before Mila. A scale, black silver, still warm. At its centre pulsed a tiny ember shaped like an eye. The scale will lead you, he whispered with his final breath. Amira knelt and picked it up carefully. The ember flashed. Far across the world, something answered. A distant roar echoed from beyond the mountains. Then another. Not one dragon, many. The Ash King smiled, his last words barely audible. Tell them, the sky remembers. Then the last ember inside him went dark. No one moved. Not the villagers, not the soldiers, not the hunters. Even the wind seemed to stop. The Ash King did not collapse. He became still, like a mountain choosing sleep. And in that silence, the people of Valdren heard something they had never heard before. The sound of the earth grieving. Deep beneath the fields, roots cracked through soil. Flowers bloomed from ash. The cliffs shuddered as if bowing their heads. Amira wiped her eyes before anyone could see. Mila stared at the dead dragon. Her hand still held the sword, but for the first time in her life, it felt heavier than it should. That night, the royal camp was divided. Some guards whispered prayers, others sharpened weapons and avoided looking toward the dragon's body. The hunters wanted the carcass burned before dawn. The priest refused to go near it. Mila stood alone at the edge of the field, watching moonlight silver the Ash King's scales. Amira approached quietly. For once, she carried no tools, only the scale. Amira spoke softly. "It's pointing east." Mila did not answer. Amira held it up. "The ember inside shifts when I turn. I think it's some kind of compass." "Then give it to the king," Mila said flatly. Amira was stunned. "You don't mean that." "I do." "Mila?" "This is not our war," Mila said harshly. "It became our war the moment we heard the truth," Amira replied, sharpening her tone. Mila turned on her. "We heard a dying dragon tell a story. We heard a dying dragon ask for help. We are hunters." "No," Amira said firmly. "You are." The words landed heavily between them. Mila's expression hardened. Amira softened immediately, but she did not take it back, speaking quietly. "I'm sorry." "No, you're not." "No," Amira confessed honestly. "I'm not." Mila looked away, her voice low. "I've spent my life protecting people from dragons." "And what if the dragons were protecting people from something worse?" Amira asked, gentle but pointed. Mila had no answer. Amira stepped closer. "I know what this means for you. I do. But if the Hollow King is real, and if the clans are all that keep him sealed, then every person in the 5 kingdoms is in danger." "You think I don't know that?" Mila's voice dropped. Amira was careful. "I think you're scared that if the dragon was right, then everything you believed about yourself changes." Mila snapped back, sharp. "I did what I had to do." "I know." "I saved villages." "I know." "I buried friends because dragons burned them alive," Mila said, her voice cracking. Amira's eyes filled with pain. "I know." Mila's voice cracked just once more, trembling. "Then do not stand there and tell me I was wrong." Amira swallowed hard. "I'm not saying you were wrong for saving people." She looked toward the Ash King, quiet and resolute. "I'm saying maybe someone wanted us saving people from the wrong enemy." For a long moment, neither sister spoke. Then a horn sounded from the western ridge. Once, twice, then screams. Mila's head snapped up. The camp erupted. Soldiers grabbed shields. Horses reared. A black mist rolled over the hilltop, swallowing moonlight as it came. But it was not mist. It moved with purpose. Inside it were shapes. Tall, thin, wrong. Like men made of smoke and bone. Their faces were hollow. Their hands ended in long curved claws. Where they stepped, grass turned grey. The first guard charged. The mist being touched his shield. The iron rusted instantly. The wood rotted. The man fell back screaming as his armor crumbled into dust. Mila Competition drew her sword. Amira loaded her crossbow, her hands shaking. Mila noticed, issuing a command. Behind me. Amira let out a nervous laugh. You always say the sweetest things before monsters try to eat us. They are not eating anyone. Good. I hate being wrong about that. The first hollow creature turned toward them, its empty face split open. A voice emerged, not loud, not angry, but entirely calm. Dragon killer. Mila went still. The creature tilted its head. The Hollow King thanks you. Then it attacked. Mila met it with steel. Her blade cut through the creature's arm, but the wound spilled no blood, only darkness. The severed limb became smoke, reformed, and struck again. Mila ducked beneath the claw and drove her shoulder into its chest. It felt like hitting frozen air. Amira fired. A crystal bolt struck the creature's head and burst with blue light. The thing shrieked, stumbling back. Mila looked surprised. Fired many things. Results vary. Keep doing that one. I would love to, but I only made 3. Mila stared. More hollow creatures poured into the camp. The hunters charged with spears and axes. Some fought bravely. Some died quickly. Not with blood, with absence. A creature would touch them and something would leave their eyes. They would collapse, alive but empty, as if the memory of who they were had been stolen. Mila fought like a storm. She moved through the chaos with brutal precision, cutting, turning, striking, never wasting motion. But the creatures did not fear pain. They did not tire. They only advanced toward the Ash King's body. Amira realized the danger, calling out in alarm. They're not here for us! Mila drove her sword through one creature's chest. What? They're after him! The hollow mist reached the dead dragon's claws. The Ash King's scales began to blacken. Amira watched, horrified. They're taking whatever fire is left in him. Mila looked at the dragon, then at the creatures, then at the scale burning in Amira's hand. For one heartbeat, she stood between 2 lives, the one she had lived and the one she could not yet understand. Then Mila raised her sword and shouted, "Form on me." The royal guards hesitated. Mila's voice thundered across the field. Now, the old command still worked. Soldiers rallied around her, shields locked. Amira rushed beside her and slammed a small device into the ground. Mila glanced down. What is that? Portable sunlight. He made portable sunlight. I was trying to make a toaster. The device clicked. Mila grew alarmed. Amira. It exploded. A pillar of white gold light blasted upward, turning night into dawn. The hollow creatures screamed. Their bodies smoked. The black mist recoiled from the Ash King's corpse. Amira blinked through the glow. Good news. Mila coughed. Do not say toaster. It may also toast. The device sparked, made a heroic little ding, and collapsed. The light died. The hollow creatures regrouped, but now Mila understood. Light hurt them. Not fire, not steel. Light. She looked toward the Ash King, then to the scale in Amira's palm. Can that thing lead us to the nearest clan? I think so. How fast? Depends how much you trust my map reading. Mila answered dryly. Less after that sentence. Fair. The hollow creatures advanced again. Mila backed toward the horses, commanding the survivors. "We leave now." One hunter shouted back, "Leave! The dragon's body is worth a fortune." Mila looked at him with ice-cold fury. "Then stay and negotiate with the shadows." He did not argue. Amira climbed onto her mare, clutching the scale. Its ember blazed bright, pointing east, toward the mountains, toward the first surviving dragon clan, toward a truth buried beneath 1,000 years of blood and songs. Mila swung onto Vesper and looked back once at the Ash King. The hollow mist had begun to curl around him again. She could not save him, but maybe she could still answer him. Mila raised her sword toward the soldiers and shouted, "Ride!" Hooves thundered across the valley. Behind them, the dead dragon vanished beneath a sea of black mist. Above them, the stars flickered as if afraid. And far away, beneath the roots of the world, something ancient smiled in the dark. The Hollow King had waited 1,000 years. The dragon clans were scattered. The old seals were breaking. And now the greatest dragon hunter alive was riding to save the very creatures she had sworn to destroy. The age of hunting was ending. The age of reckoning had begun. They rode until the moon sank low and the horses could go no farther. 3 days into the mountains, the world began to change around them. The roads narrowed into goat trails. The trees grew taller, older, strange. Their trunks were scarred with claw marks decades deep, some scars still faintly warm to the touch. Amira kept the scale wrapped in cloth against her chest, checking it only when the path forked. East. Always east. On the second night, the guards began to whisper among themselves. By the third, half of them were gone, slipped away in the dark, unwilling to keep marching toward a legend they'd spent their lives being trained to kill. "Cowards," a soldier muttered. Mila replied with tired honesty, "No, just people who believed one story their whole lives and aren't ready to believe another." Amira glanced at her sister, surprised. That almost sounded like sympathy. "Don't get used to it," Mila said wryly. By dawn of the 4th day, only 6 remained. Mila, Amira, 2 guards, the priest, and a scarred old hunter named Corwin who hadn't said a word since Valdron. The scale's ember burned brighter with every mile, and so did the cold. They found the valley at midday, though no sun reached the valley floor. A canopy of interlocked stone and root arched overhead, ancient beyond memory, grown around something enormous that had nested there for centuries. Amira's breath caught. Even Corwin, silent for 4 days, whispered a prayer under it. Nestled in the hollow beneath the canopy was a dragon unlike the Ash King, smaller, younger, scales the deep red gold of dying embers, banked low like coals kept carefully alive. She raised her head as they entered, and her watchful, molten eyes fixed on the scale in Amira's hand. The dragon spoke with controlled grief. "You carry my father's fire. Then he's gone." Her voice was lighter than the Ash King's, but no less heavy with sorrow. Amira lowered her eyes. "I'm sorry." "Don't be," the dragon replied with quiet strength. She lowered her head until it rested on the stone. "He lived 100 years past when he should have died. He was looking for you the whole time." Mila stepped forward, her hand drifting near her sword, out of old habit rather than intention. "Your ember." "I am what's left of ember," the dragon said, steady and unflinching. Her gaze moved to the blade at Mila's hip, then back to her face. Iron Huntress. I know your name the way children know the name of winter. Mila's jaw tightened. I didn't come to fight you. I know why you came, Ember said softly. Her gaze softened just slightly. My father chose well. That is what frightens me. Inside the hollow, Ember told them what the Ash King had not lived long enough to finish. 1,000 years ago, the dragons had not simply been hunted. They had let themselves be hunted, in part because the alternative was worse. Every dragon slain, every clan scattered across the world, was also a piece of the old seal spread farther from the Hollow King's reach. Divided, the dragons could not be turned. Divided, they could not be used as a single key to break the prison open. But divided, they were also dying, slowly, quietly, one by one, with no one left to notice, and no one left to mourn them but each other. Ember spoke heavily. The seal was never a wall. It was 6 locks, scattered to 6 clans, so that no single hand could ever open it, not even a dragon's. Amira leaned forward. So the Hollow King needs all 6. He needs the fire in all 6, which means he needs us dead, or bound and drained, one at a time, until there's nothing left to resist him. Mila narrowed her eyes. The mist creatures at Valdren. His hollow hands. He cannot walk the surface world himself. Not yet. Not until enough of the seal is broken. Ember's ember-lit eyes dimmed with old exhaustion and grief. My father held the Eastern Lock. He carried it for 200 years, hiding, healing, hoping the humans who hunted our kind would tire before the Hollow King found him first. Mila said quietly, they found him first. They found him last. He made sure of that. He scattered his fire before they could take it whole, into the scale, into the wind, into you. Her gaze settled tenderly on Amira. That is why the Ember calls to you, little Star Maker. You didn't just inherit a compass. You inherited a piece of him. Amira looked down at the scale, stunned into silence for the first time in days. That night, the hollow mist found them again. It came without warning. No horn, no scout, no wind shift to betray it. One moment the canopy stood silent under starlight. The next, grey tendrils were pouring between the roots, like water finding every crack in a dam. Ember rose to her full height, wings unfurling for the first time, filling the hollow with light that pulsed gold against black stone. She growled fiercely. They've tracked the fire. Mila drew her sword. How many locks does he already have? Ember looked grim. Enough that he no longer needs to hide his hunger. The mist creatures surged forward, faster and in greater numbers, their hollow faces splitting open as they spoke in that same calm, patient voice that had echoed in Valdren. Dragon Killer, give us what remains. Mila did not answer with words. She answered with steel and fire, and the full weight of everything she had spent her life training to become. But this time, she did not fight alone. Ember's flame roared through the hollow, gold instead of red, burning without consuming stone or root or human flesh. Burning only the creatures that flinched from light, the way shadows flinch from dawn. Amira, out of gadgets and nearly out of bolts, did the only thing left to do. She held the scale high and screamed toward the mountains. Answer him! The ember flared, and far beyond the canopy, the earth itself seemed to answer back. A tremor, then a roar, then another, closer and closer still, until the mist creatures froze mid-strike as if hearing something the humans could not. They were listening to the sound of siblings waking up. They came from the north, the west, the deep places no map had ever charted. Dragons of tide, of stone, of verdant, of tempest. Their wing beats like thunderclaps rolling across the mountains. Not a great number, and not the armies of the old songs, but a handful of survivors, scarred and weary, drawn by a single scale's last cry for help. But a handful was enough to remind the mist of what it truly was. Not an army, a hunger, pretending to be one. The hollow creatures broke apart into smoke and fled back into the earth, leaving the canopy scorched but standing. 6 exhausted, disbelieving humans stared up at a sky they had spent their whole lives being told to fear. Ember landed beside Mila, breathing hard, the gold light fading from her scales, back to a banked ember red. She spoke with quiet respect. You held the line. Mila looked down at her blackened sword. I had help. You had choice, Ember said. That is what he saw in you. Not skill, not fury. The choice to become something else when it mattered. They stayed 3 days in the hollow while wounds closed, and the last scattered clans arrived one by one. They were thinner in number than the old songs promised, and wearier than legend allowed, but they were alive. Real. They were no longer myths whispered over campfires, but creatures with names and grief, and a war they had been losing alone for 1,000 years. On the final night, Mila sat apart from the fire, turning her sword over in her hands, the way she had every night since Valdren. Amira sat beside her without asking permission, speaking with gentle certainty. You're not going back to Ironmere. It wasn't a question. Mila answered quietly, no. You're not going to hunt anymore. Mila was quiet for a long moment, looking vulnerable. I don't know what I am anymore. For 20 years I knew exactly what I was for. Now, she looked toward Ember, curled protectively over the youngest of the surviving hatchlings. Now I don't know if the sword even belongs in my hand. Maybe it doesn't, Amira said softly. Maybe it belongs somewhere new. Mila almost smiled. Almost. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise, Amira replied lightly. You've just been too busy brooding to notice. I was thinking. You were brooding with a sword. Mila laughed, a real laugh, short and surprised, her first since the Ash King had drawn his final breath. Above them, 6 dragons kept watch over the hollow, their fires banked low but burning, patient, together for the first time in 100 years. Far below the world, in the dark beneath every root and stone, the Hollow King felt the seal tighten instead of break. And for the first time in 1,000 years, he was afraid. The bards would tell it differently, of course. They always did. In their version, the Iron Huntress rode north to slay the last great dragon and returned a hero, sword high, legend intact. They would never sing the true ending, that the greatest dragon hunter in the 5 kingdoms had knelt beside a dying enemy and listened. That she had traded a sword's certainty for a harder, stranger kind of courage. The courage to be wrong and to change. That the age of hunting hadn't ended in a single battle, but in a single choice, made quietly, by firelight, far from any crowd who would ever know to cheer for it. The dragons remembered, and for the first time in 1,000 years, so did she.